Hi, I'm Josh. This is Josh is Making Music. And today I thought that we could talk about how to make that patch that you were just listening to on the Korg Prologue 8. If you have a Korg Prologue 8 or a Prologue 16, it'll use more or less, the same things. Of course, follow along at home. But even if you don't have one of those synths, if you liked that sound that you heard at the beginning, honestly, this is a sound that you could probably recreate on most any two oscillator synthesizer, as long as you've got, controls for like envelope and the filter envelope as well. So I would say that, if you like that sound and you do not have a Korg Prologue or, Prologue 8 or Prologue 16, I'm not telling you to go out and buy one. I think that you could get this sound on pretty much any, as I mentioned, two oscillator synthesizer. I'm sorry, I'm rambling a little bit. But let's get into it. So on the Prologue, you can access an initialized program by just going to a slot that you have not saved something in. In this case, I'm on slot 266. And you can hear that it's just saw wave. Now, on the Korg Prologue's front panel, you have all these knobs with different settings. When you load a new patch, the positions of these knobs do not reflect the actual settings the Prologue is reading, which does make sense. Otherwise, every time you changed patches, you'd have to have a little motor that turns everything, which would be an engineering nightmare, I'm sure. So when we go to Initialized Patch, we have just one oscillator that we're hearing playing a saw wave. And you can see it here on the oscilloscope. So our first step is that we're going to go to this little mixer row here and bring in the second oscillator. And you can hear already we've kind of thickened up our saw. Let's bring the second oscillator down. And now we'll bring it in. And you can hear how it adds a little more texture to the sound. The next step is going to be detuning the saws, which I feel like I've seen it as like a meme that for every synth patch you detune the saws, but the meme has come to life. For this patch, we detune the saws. So on here, when I turn these pitch knobs, and it might be a little bit difficult to see on the screen, it'll show how many cents you're shifting the note by. I typically try to shoot for around 10 to 7 cents of a change. And it's a little bit tricky to get. Sometimes I'm not usually too precise about it, but here I've now got them detuned. So just for a little comparison, here's just one oscillator. Here's both oscillators. When you detune them slightly, you get just a little bit of sonic friction between the oscillators, which I find quite nice. On the amp envelope, I usually try to have there be a little bit of release on here so that when you let go of the notes, with no release, the note just stops when I let go. I turn up the release, and you can hear that it rings out a little bit. The other thing that I like to do is turn up the attack. So when I have the attack, if I turn it up all the way up, to 12 o'clock, you'll hear the note fades in a little bit. I don't put it there. I like to have it just up a little bit. Maybe it's just, I don't know, psychosomatic, a placebo effect, but it feels like it takes just a little bit of the edge off of the arrival of the sound when you turn up the attack. Just a little bit. So the next step is going to be using the filter. Sometimes I'm very heavy-handed with filters, but what I like to do is I just bring it down until I've got a nice mellow sound. It should sound almost like you are underwater, but you know how to swim. And I turn up the resonance a little bit too. So the resonance will emphasize some of the frequencies that are being scooped out by the filter and give it a little bit more, definition, so it's not too muddy. I'm gonna go back to the envelopes and I'm gonna fiddle around with the filter envelope. So in the same way that you have an amplitude envelope, you have the attack, decay, sustain, release controlling volume, you can have an envelope that controls how much and like how the filter is applied. So I just turn up the attack a little bit higher than the attack for the amplitude, and I turn the release just a little bit lower than the release for the amplitude. And then the last step is to just change around the envelope intensity for the filter until I've got it about where I want it. So with the envelope intensity at 0, nothing happens. If I turn it down, let's go to negative 25%. You can hear that now we've got the sound like it comes in with a little bit less filter, and then the filter gradually gets a little bit stronger. I'm going to actually turn that closer to, let's try negative 13%. There we go. Lucky number 13. I think that's good. The last couple of steps that I like to do on here are, playing around with the effects. There are on here reverb and delay. I find that when you have something that's like this low pitched and you add reverb or delay, it gets a little bit muddy, at least, to my ears. I do, however, like to use chorus. That's how it sounds with it on, so no chorus. Chorus on. You can hear there's just a little bit more texture added. I've said the word texture so many times in this video. That basically covers how I would go about making a patch like this. As I mentioned at the beginning, this isn't really like a super complicated, groundbreaking patch, but I do think it emphasizes what to me is one of the strong points of the Korg Prologue, which is just that its oscillators sound really quite beautiful, I think. It's one of the reasons why the Prologue is, at least for me, it's my favorite polyphonic synthesizer. So I think that we'll just close off with me playing around a little bit like I was at the beginning with the patch that we've just made. Whatever device you're making it on, if you like what you've made, don't forget to write or save however it is that you store it in memory, because if you don't, I'm sure that you will be quite upset. I'm working on a song using this patch, so I'll just play a little bit of what I'm working with for now. It'll just be on the Prologue, and hopefully in the near future I'll have a little bit more of a fleshed out track. I want to thank you so much for watching and listening. I hope you found it entertaining and or helpful, ideally both, but at least one. And, if you have not already, please consider leaving a like, hitting subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know if you enjoy this kind of like step-by-step patch creation and also just hanging out and talking kind of video. But yeah, anyway, thanks again. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.